This one was published on Friday, December the 16th, 2022. It's anachronism number 3,797. No, sorry. 3,796. And it was, It's called Some Sins We Keep a Secret Are Just Silly. Is that true? I believe that most all of us have at least one thing, if not several, that we think of for whatever odd reason or reasonable reasons we might as our deepest, dark secrets. And of those self-styled never-tells, most all of us probably spend the best portion of our days making sure as best we possibly can that nary an additional soul, so far as it is within our grasp of control, will ever, so far as it is within our grasp of control, will ever know this deeply hidden stuff. My guess is, though, that most of these secrets are hardly sinister, if even in the least. In fact, they'd no doubt make more rightly be dubbed our deepest, darkest embarrassments. If I tell you this, you must promise never to tell another soul. You must swear it. And it turns out to be such a ridiculously silly thing. Like, I once kissed so-and-so at the prom, but we were both on dates with other people. What a doozy, right? Perhaps I should not poke fun, lest you think I am being serious. Another one might be I threw a rock at the kid on the monkey bars who wound up with a broken shin because of it, and that furthermore some other kid got blamed for the injurious act of schoolyard bullying. Me? If there were a metric system for sinister, most folks' atrocious moments would be rather minuscule. And admittedly, I didn't do that on said scale, but I'm sure I did something like that. Sure, everything is relative, and each secret would be in its own unique spot on the vector, such that there would be things that caused individuals such a lifetime of consternation, and yet that issue or problem might live at the very low end of the scale. So paltry, the cause of so much anxiety, that I just want to shake it out of whomever and yell into his or her eyeballs, just live your life happy. Who cares? As they have certainly spent an absurd amount of life worrying over what I would, and with ease, call a bunch of hooey. Loads and loads of nothing, of course. As one might climb that vector higher and yet higher, one might then start to encounter some things that even I myself might find distasteful. I mean, at first, of course, there would be such innocuities as white lies. Later, one might find running over a neighbor's poor pug with your folks' LTD Landau. Let me state right here and now that I would put a fairly stout condition of objectivity onto said scale, as this exercise is elucidating, or at least I would assume it is, one person's heinous is yet another's laughing matter. But onward, up the scale, one would surely find such things as infidelity, for example, and that would in all ways that logic might provide be past quite some time before reaching somewhere at the apex, if not very near it. Murder, mass murder. Are you with me so far? But we're not all murderers and hardcore thieves, are we? As one example that comes to mind, most of us, when it comes to commitment with other people, I would venture to wager, are pretty loyal. Wait, now, I think on that notion a bit more. I believe I just flat out lied, or I led you on. Prevarication, see, I am accumulating things I should regret, or at least consider immoral. Am I right? I think that was me projecting myself onto others just a wee bit, at least once I put my brain to it a bit more, based on my own personal experience, that is, but not much else. In fact, one could call this assemblage of lines a projection collage, I suppose. I do err toward the belief that most everyone in a committed relationship of any sort has or has had at least a somewhat substantial indiscretion, if not several, at some point during said committed relationship. But that's just me. I do have my reasons for thinking so darkly, and I have come to see that I'm quite the odd person out when it comes to my own personal beliefs in such matters. But then there's the sticky issue of logic. Certainly, just about anyone who ever knew me at all, and for decades, would have the luxury of getting a headache's worth of my diatribe about this belief, based, of course, on logic, that sex, commitment, and love are wholly separate entities, and that either of these, singly, do not need any reliance whatsoever upon or have anything to do with the other two. Each can exist just fine singularly. And I would go on and on about this, even relaying my own personal examples of each possible scenario. So, if two or more individuals decide they want to set off on a long-term thing, the only thing they would need in order to make it something intent upon lasting is commitment, which is some sort of contract with each other. Those days have been gone for a while now. The ones in which I would have anyone around me to begin with, much less anyone who might tolerate me going on and on about this or that. It's not that my beliefs on the subject have changed, at least in theory. It's just I cannot be certain anymore, if ever I even was, how to put such theory smoothly into practice. It all still makes sense, though, but I have much to figure out about it all, given that I've not only lost practicing debating the matter, but it seems like an eternity since I've had the luxury or opportunity to put the theory into practice. Not that I would care to, necessarily, since for now, at least, such ideas are all but senseless. And while it has become terribly trite of me to even say by now, it appears that I have gotten sidetracked. I started off on the subject of the silliness of most of our most tucked away hidden secrets, and indeed how silly most surely must be, with some rare exceptions. If, for example, Fede's deepest secret is that he didn't plant a row of potatoes in the garden back when he was, say, 10 years old, and instead only planted 2 rows, rather than a 3rd row, when he was clearly commanded to plant 3. And in his later years, you revealed that secret to me as if it were the worst of all possible sins. Would that be silly? Would I say, wow, Martha, I think you should have tried a little bit of infidelity, just for the experience? For what you might learn from such a thing, perhaps for the fun of it even. Depending on what she would tell me her secret was. Then Martha took her last breath, although her eyes looked right up at me as if said something that could, as if I'd said something that could possibly have killed her. I look down now at her lifeless eyes and say, "You're really silly, Martha. You are such a silly human being." Then I leave Martha's lifeless body in the bed of her wonderfully furnished home and head out to a fancy new sushi place that is the talk of the town, because I have a date with a new hottie in town named Stan. And this is a plan that has been solid for a few weeks now. Yeah, I think I know what I was trying to do there. Not sure if I succeeded. I mean, quite well.